At my old school, all my senpai mysteriously vanished. They suspected foul play, but nothing was ever found. Regardless, I moved schools anyway, and today marks my first day at Shadowlands High. I wonder what wild and crazy adventures I'll go on here. Hello everyone and welcome. Today I'm taking on the Shadow of the Erdtree as a dragon Yandere. Before I get started, I need to fix something. This fashion, what was I thinking? Much better. Now to ride around collecting a bunch of shadow fragments because Michael Zaki hates me. Sniper Golem actually knew how to aim this time. There is one specific thing I also want to grab, the domain of the dragon's painting. At the end of my long escapade, I was able to get my blessing to level 14. The only ones remaining are those inside legacy dungeons. Now, you might think that this is overkill, and under normal circumstances, yeah, it kinda would be. But trust me when I say in this run, I need all the help I can get. Ancient Dragon Man-kun, I'm sorry it has to be this way, but I saw you looking at Bale Senpai. For that, you must die. Up the mountain, I find a nice quiet place to talk with a ghost about his artwork, and that rewards me the rock heart. Then, all I have to do is consume the heart of my beloved, and finally, I have become Senpai. That would have been a lot cooler without the resistance mirrors popping up, but that's fine, game. It was at this point I noticed I hadn't collected every single tier, so I quickly swing around the base game and grab them. I also don't have the max number of flasks, but honestly, I never go out of my way to get those, and this character is kinda old. I honestly don't remember which ones I haven't gotten, so let's just hope I don't ever need more flasks than I already have. Alright, so what would be the best strategy here? Rude. That was such an annoying surprise attack that it rattled my entire strategy. Should I breathe in the boss's face or bite at his ankles? Actually, I wonder how strong the bite is. I mean, I know it's a dragon, but like according to some random article I definitely fact-checked, an adult T-Rex's bite packs a whopping 12,800 pounds of force. Surely it must be similar to that, and that sounds like a lot, but not nearly as much as the 28.6 million joules that an M1 Abrams could unload like in today's sponsor, War Thunder. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made and is available now for free on PC and console. Like, I'm not kidding you guys, the amount of in-depth customization is insane. I mean, they got all sorts of camouflages, historical markings, just everything to make your vehicles feel like yours. They even have a few community-created ones. You love to see it when a company actually embraces its fan base. But beyond that, I love the combat. It's hard to put it into words, but that feeling of just rolling up a hill in a death machine, then lobbing around across the map at my target and getting that oh so satisfying X-ray damage view, just it's good stuff. Really gets the dopamine flowing. And it's not like I'm just firing at a rolling box with hit points. War Thunder has one of the most sophisticated vehicle damage models in gaming. You can immerse yourself in the intense combat of War Thunder where those incredibly detailed vehicles, realistic graphics, and authentic sound effects place you right at the helm of the most powerful war machines of our time. Take command of over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships of 10 major nations ranging from biplanes and armored cars of the 1920s to the fighter jets and main battle tanks of today. So what are you waiting for? Join a worldwide community of over 70 million players in epic PvP battles today and delve into the breathtaking experience that is War Thunder. Use my link in the description and get some awesome bonuses for both new and returning players that haven't played in the last 6 months. Bonuses like the exclusive vehicle decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 silver lions, and 7 days of premium account goodness. War Thunder is available on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, so what are you waiting for? Download now and I'll see you on the battlefield. Thanks again to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. Ghost Flame Senpai here is looking a little juicy, but that's okay. I'm here to air out those wounds. Surprisingly, these enemies can be rotted. I guess rot doesn't necessarily mean a flesh-eating disease, but I digress. So let's talk general strategy for this run. From my list of spells, you can probably guess that my thinking was to first rot the enemy, then frostbite it for a chunk of damage in the debuff, then go full rabies mode and bite their faces off. If you think this sounds like an easy mode strat, don't worry. Almost every boss in this DLC told me to take that plan, write it on the lowest grit sandpaper I could find, dip that in the lemon juice, hot glue a few razor blades to it, and then turn it into a catheter. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Speaking of head, did you know that dragons take extra damage to the face? I mean, you probably did, the game's been out for like 2 years at this point, but still. Let me give you a little smooch there, senpai. Ghost Flame Senpai number 2 is currently fighting off hordes of adoring fans. At first I was gonna let this just play out, but then I decided to join the fun. I love how these archers are like, there's a big scary death dragon and it's literally killing all my friends. Better shoot some arrows at the guy hiding in the bushes. Man, I have a killer headache right now. Not really sure why though. But you know what I always do when I have a headache? I take a nap. Just turn on the AC, grab a blanket, and close my eyes ready to be whisked away into a dream world. Not too much unlike the lands between, except, you know, happier. Last time there was even a sandwich shop. Could you imagine? And the person behind the counter, they had all these papers everywhere and they were writing a lot of things down with a quill for some reason. I think the machine was broken, I'm not really sure, but either way, they asked me what my order was and I said, I'll have one sub, scribe. 2 undead, now re-dead dragons down, 1 to go. The last one, however, did actually give me some issues. First, it got me with a ghost flame stomp. Then, as I was patiently waiting for him to die like a good trust fund baby, he breathed fire sideways a la fire giant and even got cured, so only I went down. Third time, he tail swiped me. Fourth try, I thought I was far enough away from his AoE. I wasn't. Finally, on the 5th try, he goes down. That was way more work than it needed to be, and the first hint that things weren't going to go well in this run. With 3 new dragon hearts, I can consume them for Ghost Flame Breath. Alright, Divine Beast, time to test out my build. Oh, okay, that's not terrible damage. And as you might have guessed, it is completely possible to jump over his breath attacks. I tried it again during the lightning phase, but they were able to inch their way towards me, and I can't phase through a waterfall of lightning, so I took that hit. I actually say that this boss with this build is easy. Jumping over their breath and daring phase change, there's enough time to get at least an uncharged breath attack off. Oh, how I wish that were true for the rest of the DLC. At the end, I fought ice with ice, and it was nice. I headed straight to Rolana, where I attempted to see if she had a weakness to strong jaws like her sister. Unfortunately, she does not. I mean, she still took a lot of damage, so that's good, but I was really hoping it would knock her over. I thought maybe if I could get her to phase 2, then I could use the weird no-hitbox on her Moonveil spam to do some real damage. Yep, that's some real damage right there. I'm assuming that the Dragon Head also has a hurt box on it, and it was just so massive that I took the hit and was knocked out of it. Rolana wasn't going to make this easy, but there is something I could do to help out. I hope. See, just before fighting the Divine Beast, I took 2 weeks off this challenge because of some IRL stuff I needed to do. As such, when I came back, I could not remember what I was doing and just knew I had some bosses to beat up, so I tried that. Talismans. I forgot to get new talismans. I already had a couple like the Roar Medallion and a few defensive options, but I wanted a couple more just to see if they could help. First is Beloved Stardust, basically Radagon's icon, but faster. The drawback being that I take more damage, but if I'm able to speed up my casting animation even 1%, I'll be happy. To get it, I simply need to shove my entire dragon head into this hole and blow as hard as I can. I should consider rewording that sentence. There's nothing stopping me from doing this immediately, so no additional bosses needed to be taken care of. Next, I want the Godfrey icon dropped by Godfroy. While he got a few hits in on me, I could literally take a bite out of his health bar, and that was mostly painless. Last, since I'm naked already, I figured the blue Dancer Charm could help. I also tested to see if the Primal Glintstone Blade was worth it. It reduces the FP cost of spells, but causes me to take more damage. Couple that with the aforementioned lack of clothes and taking damage from Beloved Stardust, yeah, I think I'm okay with the extra FP cost, thanks. In the end, I decided to use Beloved Stardust, the Roar Medallion, Blue Dancer Charm, and the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman to hopefully offset the damage increase. Now, back to Rolana. I opted to start the fight with a jumping Rot Breath. This way, the only issue is if she immediately went for Moonveil, as anything else she could do would result in her taking some damage. The goal is to rot her as close to her phase transition as possible. Because of phase 2's increased aggression, there wasn't really going to be a chance to rot her later, or really do anything that won't result in me taking a sword to the face, but I had a secret plan. Basically let her get rotted, then during the phase transition tack on a little extra damage, and then hope that that is enough to just barely get her low enough to do the Moon Slam. Why, you ask? Well, because those can be jumped, which means in theory I can just jump in the air and breathe at her. What? I'm sorry, no. What? How did that? What? Yeah, so turns out you can jump it, but casting a spell makes you be able to get hit? I guess? Or maybe the attack has a roof hitbox? I don't know. I don't know. There were other times in this run where I jumped and cast a spell and was able to dodge multiple things while still breathing ice fire at them. So I honestly just don't understand what happened here. But in the end, I decided not to question it and would instead just attack her in the final blast, and despite not getting a lot of damage, I somehow went over her sword. So yeah, I don't understand jumping. Either way, boss number 2 falls, and it's not gonna get much easier from here. I quickly put an end to the hippo for some extra fragments, then decided to do something really stupid. Commander Gaius. My reason for doing him so early is there's actually a specific boss I want to fight, but I don't feel ready for it, and Gaius protects a whopping 5 shadow fragments, so if I can suffer through him, then maybe it'll help in the long run. To the surprise of absolutely fucking no one, this fight sucked. I thought perhaps there would be enough time to get a breath on him after he does the circle shoulder back attack, but that's just not the case. I also tried to run away from his big combo, and that could work, maybe, especially if I use Torrent, but I didn't think to try that because I gave up after the first mistake. Now, some of you might be screaming to use Dragon Maw because you get a lot of poise with it. Spoiler alert, that spell ended up being the MVP of this run. The problem here though is Gaius' charge just plows right through me. And do you know what Dragon Maw doesn't give? Iframes. So if I decided to go for that attack and he went for a charge, I was actually just dead and there was nothing I could do about it. There were some small optimizations I could make, like dodging back through his shoulder bash to be in a better position to bite him, but other than that, it was mostly just trading blows. I really hope that doesn't become a theme in this run. I eat my sun-dried shadow grapes and head back to Jagged Peak, where I breathe rotten death over all the dragons, including the worst one in the series, before meeting Bale Senpai, leader of the Dragon Club. I did not expect this fight to go very well. I had predicted that there would be no safe attack opportunities and everything I would do would run the risk of me getting turned into a barbecue, a pancake, or both. However, I was wrong. There is in fact one attack Bale can do that has a long enough window afterwards to safely bite him. It's this lunging attack, and I know what you're thinking. Doom, that's perfect. Just bait that attack over and over and punish. And yeah, that would be perfect. Except in phase 2, it gets an extra explosion, meaning it's no longer safe. It's also possible to get a hit in if he's breathing fire and you're next to him, but that's a bit harder to set up and requires a tiny bit of luck. On the winning attempt, I was actually able to land enough bites in quick succession to break his stance. I then chugged the infinite FP flask and attempted to rod him, but he was able to get away before it took effect. Since I was able to get some solid hits in with it, I didn't want it to go to waste, and by some stroke of RNG, he decided to lunge at me and do the attack that spins him around to shoot fire. But I was underneath him at that point, so I could just spew rotten breath to my heart's content, and thankfully it was enough to proc it. At this point, my strategy became run away hoping the rock kills him. Except then he did the lunge spin again. In hindsight, it would have been more cost efficient to go for Dragon Maw, but I wasn't going to tempt fate by standing near his mouth while he breathed fire. In the end, he tried slamming his lightning down on me, but it was no match for my bad breath. This took a few hours, and I'm glad it's out of the way. Also, I didn't know where else to show this, but at some point, Bale's AI kinda broke. I mean, he just stood there and did nothing. I absolutely should have used this chance to do as much damage as possible, but I instead chose to just stand there hoping that he would never attack me again. Eventually, he remembered we were fighting and snapped out of it, and I lost on this attempt despite him doing literally nothing, like freaking Luigi against level 9 computers. Back at the shrine of my senpais, I take the still beating heart of Bale and consume it for its power. I wasn't sure which spell to pick, but ultimately went with Flame Lightning because it's Metal AF. And of course, the only thing I can think to do with it is to use it to take on the Dragon Lord himself. Wow, that's actually kinda underwhelming. While I let this fight play out, I want to clear the air on something from my previous video. As you can see, Dragon Lord Placidusax is very much alive here, so why didn't I take him out then? Especially thematically, he would have been a perfect final boss for that run. The answer is pretty simple. At the time, I only did shard bearers and didn't want to give any special attention to any of the other remembrance bosses. Hindsight is 2020, as I currently do all bosses in my runs, but yeah, that's it. It's the same reason I didn't do Fortisax. But that just means I can go back now and clear them for some extra fun. Anyway, Placidusax goes for his big laser attack, but unfortunately I was too far away to capitalize on it, so I just stayed way back, and that's when I noticed something. He didn't tire out. Was that something they changed? Because, I mean, that used to be the golden opportunity to hit him. Like, if you lived that attack and was close enough, the fight was pretty much over. That was probably one of the coolest things I've ever done. Summer vacation is happening at Shadowlands High, so I decided to head back to the lands between. Anyone else bothered by the Finger Creeper's idle animation? I mean, yeah, it's creepy, but did y'all notice the ring just kind of like pops into existence? Loretta. This attack is as underpowered as it looks. Hello, Adula Senpai. Can you show me some of your magic tricks? Oh, a disappearing act? How original. Don't worry, I'll search high and low for you, my precious senpai. High and low. The local doll told me I could go kick rocks and find her a sharp stick, so I dive into the eternal city of Nokron. Now, you might be expecting me to have an honorable duel with my mimic. Nah, I'm just gonna breathe on him from a distance. GG, loser. Oh, wait, I'm that loser. I decided to exploit Real Ancestor Spear's weakness to fire, and I mean, just look at that damage. It might have been enough to one-shot him had he not jumped. Then he lives on 1 HP in a dream. Then I misspace my attack and he's able to heal. Did it matter? No. Finger Slayer Blade for second best girl Ronnie, then I find a doll of her and proceed to put it in a jar and talk to it like a madman. Normally I don't even bother to do this, but I actually have to progress her questline enough to get the wedding ring. Oh, hello Estelle. Yep, that's some good damage. I have nothing else to say. He's stupid and went for that tail stab attack and I just bad breath all over him. Thanks for the easy remembrance, I guess. Wedding band in hand, I'm able to get by that gate that was behind him and ascend to the plateau where I find Adula Senpai. I told you, you can't run from me. I'll find you, no matter where you are. Oh, the fight itself? Super easy, as are pretty much all the basic dragon fights. Next up, Lanciax. Why do they keep running? Silly dragon, don't you know by now? My love is eternal, and if I can't have you, no one can. I'm gonna skip past the entire sewer section because actually nothing happened and go straight for Fia's champions. Come on, you gotta put up more of a fight than that. That's like Bambi levels of easy. At least Rogier can survive a single hit. When all three of them showed up, I tried getting a bit cheeky with the rot breath, and I mean, I hit them, but it was sloppy. Not that it mattered, they died like 12 seconds later anyway. Hello, Fia. A little birdie told me you were hiding a dragon. I know you probably think he's cute, but he's mine, and if you get in my way, so help me. Oh, hello, Fortisax. What's that? You don't think we should see each other anymore, but I thought you loved me. I thought we were going to be together forever. What do you mean you never said that? When I dropped my eraser, you picked it up and said, here you go. And everyone knows that means we're gonna get married. Well, no matter. I've already taken care of all your other little friends, so you have no choice. Oh, Grail, giving me that note to meet you on the bridge was so romantic. I always knew you liked me. Don't worry, we can be together once I consume your heart. The local authorities are getting a bit suspicious of all the sudden dragon disappearances, and since that's all the dragons in the lands between having been defeated, and no dragonkins don't count, I decided it was time to head back to the Shadowlands, and first, I'm gonna take on a flower. Why? I don't know, I just kinda wanted to. As a plant, it should naturally have a weakness to being burnt to a crisp, so I use Aguil's Flame, and yeah, that's some good damage. I also learned that it's possible to dodge the explosion AoE, apparently, which in this case is great because it basically means certain death for the boss, and we take those. Next stop, Stone Coffin Fisher, and oh god, are those the 4-1 skeletons from Demon Souls? Oh, please no. I guess this Lionel Misbegotten heard me talking trash in my last video and decided to kill me. Joke's on him though, the second time he fell off. Lemon, is that you? Time for the Putrescent Knight. Now, I was excited for this fight because during phase 2, he has that attack where he summons a torrent of flames. Flames that can be jumped over. Except for some stupid reason, the flames that are on the ground still hit me. I just don't get the whole jumping thing. It's weird because the first set did pass under me, but not the second one. On the next attempt, I tried it again and it still didn't work, and I know you can dodge things while getting attacks in because there's a later fight where I do exactly that. So if anyone can tell me what's happening here, I'd love to hear it. Either way, the knight goes for his cool horse combo attack, and that gives me plenty of time to secure the victory. Is this how all PvP fights go with this build? I owe mother at this statue, then stop to grab the golden braid. You know, just in case. I wonder what the lore behind these holes are. I mean, why blow into 3 of them, then suddenly be transported to a finger graveyard? This is one of the easier fights in the DLC. She's kinda slow and is a really big target, so it's easy to land rot breath. However, much like Gaius, if I decided to bite her at the wrong time, it's actually just death. I was able to stagger her in 2 hits one time, but it usually took 3, and I don't know what the discrepancy with that was, but either way, there are fully safe opportunities to attack her. Like when she does the head slam ground explosion thingy. If you're close enough, you can just run to her side and that's it. Then when she goes to phase transition, there is plenty of time to rot her. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get it, but similar to Bale, I knew it was close and I didn't want to waste a chance, so I just tanked some damage. She did her big laser attack, and I of course still haven't learned, but she's basically as good as dead at this point. That was a welcome change in difficulty, all things considered. Maybe this is starting to get easier. One more optional boss to go, I just need to get through Jory first. Let me show you something. Do you see that? Do you see me hovering above his ground AoEs and it not doing anything? This isn't even the encounter I was talking about when I mentioned it being able to jump an unreliable attack earlier. I'm gonna skip the Abyssal Woods run because it's just running and go straight to the Meadra fight. On my first attempt, I was lulled into a massive false sense of security. I managed to dodge all the frenzied bolts during this barrage. I thought it was because I was in the air and they only hit on the ground, which is not true as I would soon learn. Regardless, I got him to low health, then did that thing where I basically ate it for the next few dozen attempts. At some point, I actually lost the ability to breathe while jumping. I don't know how. I mean, prior to this, I got knocked out of the attack by an explosion, but I mean, hundreds of attacks have knocked me out of my rot breath in this video alone, so why it suddenly didn't let me attack now while in the air? I don't know. And it wasn't fixed until I died. I don't know. And the worst part, that's not the last time it happened in this run. Anyway, there is technically a safe opportunity to attack him. At the beginning of the fight, he always goes for his Flame of Frenzy, and you can just run around him to avoid it and get a free hit off. I suppose that would mean that anytime he does that attack, as long as you could get behind him, you could do it, but it's much harder to do when he's actually fighting and not scripted like at the beginning. Then, like I said, as long as you're lucky and avoid the bolts, you can jump and breathe at him, but it's way more dangerous to do in Phase 2 because he's also got Frenzied Burst. But despite those risks, I think it's better to stay at a distance instead of engaging up close, because a chance of getting hit and doing damage is better than absolutely getting hit while doing damage. Next up, Mesmer, whose strat is the exact opposite. My plan here was to just bite his face off. However, I learned that he can one-shot me from full health with a grab, so I decided to take off Beloved Starlight. Honestly, I should have done that way sooner, but you know, hindsight and all. To start the fight out, I stick near the entrance and dodge his lunge and explosion, then go for a Dragon Maul. This isn't safe, but he also likes to dodge away after it, and putting the wall next to him means he can't do that. After that, I got lucky by hitting him in the air of his Fire Foul attack, and then pressed the attack again for a stance break. I knew it would take 2 hits to send him into Phase 2, so I used the opportunity to heal. The next hit was an unfortunate trade, but then the one after that I barely escaped what is probably death by phase transitioning. He always starts with a snake explosion, which has plenty of time for heals, and then my next attack staggered him, and this time, since I had literally just healed like 3 seconds prior, I was able to hit him for some juicy free damage. Well, it should have been free, but I messed the dodge up afterwards, but you know, whatever. Either way, he is very vulnerable after his snake attacks, like to the point I wonder if someone forgot to put either a massive defense buff on him when he was in that form, or like a damaging radiant AoE around him. I don't know, it's actually much easier to fight Phase 2. And at the end, the Impaler becomes impaled on my fangs. Alright, Romina, Saint of the Bud, another boss that has an alarming weakness to fire, and this is the one I did have in mind when I said I could randomly jump over everything. Just look at this. I dodged like 4 of her attacks. Why is that so inconsistent? Unfortunately, this is the other fight where I just suddenly couldn't attack while jumping. I wish I had an on-screen overlay so I could prove it, but I'm just mashing the attack button while in the air here and nothing's happening. Hey, editing Doom, could you slow down the footage and see if you have any insight about this?
Not really. I slowed the footage down and it kinda looked like we got knocked over, but we're still casting, but honestly, I got nothing.
Right. At any rate, because Romina is deathly allergic to fire, this wasn't a terribly hard boss fight. Well, I guess that's the power of 5 gum. Imagine being a renowned knight and being beaten by a naked scaly biting you to death. Though, I guess something knights versus dragons, I don't know. And finally, the long road is at its end. It's time to fight Radahn. So, as you may have guessed, there is not a single move in Radahn's kit that is slow enough for me to safely land an attack. Of course, my first plan was to rot him and just try to outlive him. Phase 1, that's actually pretty easy, but he loses his proc when he phase transition, and I guess he gets more base resistance because I was not able to proc it in Phase 2 with this build ever. I didn't seem to be getting anywhere, so I thought about changing up my strategy. I tried using Dragon Claw because I think it's a bit faster than Maul plus Beloved Stardust, but it's still not fast enough to safely hit him and is doing noticeably less damage. After hours of fighting him, I was still obsessed with the idea of rotting him in Phase 2, thinking it was the only answer, and JK leads pitch using Endure. At first, I brush it off saying, that's not a Dragon Communion spell, but as I got desperate, I tried it. However, it too failed me. I realized now while editing the video that the buff actually wore off before the explosion happens, and I later found out that it does work, but the issue is that I need every second of casting Rotten Breath during that time, as it's the only time I'll have to safely get it off. I tried over and over to drink my Physic just before Phase 2 started, but the unlimited FP duration was so short I couldn't really get him in Phase 2 fast enough to make use of it. After several hours of this, I knew I needed to come up with another plan, and as much as I didn't want to do it, that plan involved just going toe-to-toe with the mightiest demigod. So here's what I did. First, I removed the FP and Bubble tier and replaced it with the Opaline tier for extra protection and something else I'll show in a second. For spells, I just kept Dragon Maw and regular Rot Breath. For talismans, it was the Ritual Sword, Blue Dancer Charm, Dragon Crest Great Shield, and Golden Braid. Now, I don't normally do play-by-plays, but I'm kinda proud of this kill, so I wanted to share it, and I think it'd be easier to talk about strategies this way. As the fight starts, Radahn does his corkscrew attack. Easy enough to dodge and should be used as a punish window. He did the absolute best thing he could have done here, which is to step away from me. In this case, I kinda clipped his elbow or something, resulting in a hit, and since he went for the gravity pull, I barely had enough time to dodge away. Actually couldn't have asked for a better start. Then I simply stay near him, trying to bait out his combo that ends in a rupture attack. Eventually he does it, and this is his longest ending lag attack, so I try to dodge and land behind his heel and go for a bite. In this case, he followed it up with the meteors, and here I was able to dodge away again, but sometimes this attack just comes out faster? I don't know, sometimes I took the first hit of him slamming his swords down, then sometimes I didn't. Another corkscrew and I go for a bite, but unfortunately he stomps and I get hit by the shockwave. Not terrible, but not great. I have on one or two occasions had him miss that just because I ended up being positioned too far to his side for it to connect, but here no such luck. On the upside though, it was the rupture combo and I go for another attack, and thankfully he dashes away. He goes for another rupture, and from testing I knew that it's 5 bites to put him into phase 2, so immediately after casting I switched to Rotten Breath and the Cerulean Tears. As I'm mashing the start button to skip the cutscene, I'm holding triangle and ready to push down on the D-pad for my physic, which is loaded with the aforementioned Opaline tier as well as Crimson Whirl. Since Radahn's nuke is holy damage, it'll actually heal me. I figured since I had to get hit anyway, I might as well make it work for me. I breathe Rot on him just to get some solid damage in. I picked the regular Rotten Breath because I can actually squeeze a tiny bit more damage out of it due to it costing less FP. After I get knocked down, I use him coming down to drink my Cerulean Tear. He went for a grab, and with a normal weapon, this is a perfect time to attack him, but I learned several fights ago that this is absolutely not safe. He does the dash clone attack, which I normally roll twice to the right and dodge, but here I got clipped by it. Now he always follows up his meteors with a clone attack, and I'm still not 100% okay with dodging this, but in this instance I managed to successfully evade it by spam rolling to the right, and then waiting a second to avoid the rupture, to which I of course bite his ankles. And thanks to him taking a second to turn around, I had just enough time to dodge his follow-up. Lots of dodging and just waiting for his rupture at this point. Eventually he does it, and RNG is on my side as he once again steps away from me. The somersault attack is another one of those that is safe with a normal weapon, but not here. Not only can he do it twice, but even if you wait for the second one, there still isn't enough time. Another rupture, another bite, but this time no luck with him stepping away and I get cleaved in the face. This is what I mean when I say it solely depends on his follow-ups. Unfortunately, I mistimed the dodge of his stomp and took some damage, but I decided to go on the offensive anyway because I was jaded from fighting him for like 5 hours, and it paid off as he stepped away and went for a somersault, giving me plenty of time to react. Then he jumped in the sky and I immediately ran away. This attack terrifies me because I can never tell if I'm far enough away, but either way I use the time to heal and mana up. He then goes for a nuke, and since I already burned my physic, I just run to the side to avoid it. Then he goes for the Spin of Death. I never feel like I skillfully dodged this, and instead it's just lucky rolls, but at the end I went for a 100% unsafe bite and of course got punished for it. I recognize this combo as being the extended one with a slightly longer ending, so I use that time to heal. I'll be honest, I dodged way too early on that grab, and I'm just lucky it didn't connect. I scuffed the clone attack this time, which means I had to choose between attacking and healing, and since I was getting low, I decided survivability was more important right now. Once again, I noticed that it was the long combo, and this was also unsafe, but I went for the bite, and thankfully he followed up with a slow grab, and I was able to dodge it. Nothing really happens for a while, so I want to mention in this fight in particular, the poise from Dragon Ball was so incredibly clutch. I couldn't imagine doing this encounter where every time he hit me, it knocked me down. Just the sheer amount of luck required to do that is beyond me. Like, 6,033 manas all over again. I should have dodged to the right for this clone attack, but I mistakenly went left. Fortunately, I only got hit by the second cleave instead of all of them. He did clip me at the end of the combo though. I decided to burn a heal here just so I could get back to Ritual Sword Talisman range. It probably didn't help, but it made me feel better to have full health. Unfortunately, that was short-lived as I got hit by a couple clones again. Thankfully, they do very little damage by themselves, and I avoided the rupture and went for a bite. He did the dreaded cross slash attack, but I poised through the first hit, which allowed me to easily dodge the second and third. Now, this attack I would normally follow with a bite, but I was scared. He was one hit away, but this isn't the first time I had him at one hit, so instead I healed up. Radahn, Consort of Mikola, falls, and I have beaten Shadow of the Erdtree as a Dragon Yandere. Thanks again to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Remember, you can play right now for free on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. Just click my link in the description. And remember, new and returning players that haven't played for 6 months will also receive a massive bonus pack including multiple premium vehicles and some other awesome goodies, so don't miss out. Thank you everyone for watching, and an extra special thanks to my patrons. Stay beautiful, y'all. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving a like and subscribing. It really helps the channel out, and why don't you check out the first half of my Dragon Yandere run, where you can see how I handled the base game. But until next time, my friends, don't you dare go hollow.